A lot of people hold on to anchors their entire lives, things that weigh you down. You know they're weighing you down. And instead of just letting go of the anchor so that way you can float and move along the correct path towards the things you really want out of life, you hold on to the anchor desperately and you never get the things you want. The anchor holds you back. By the way, please like the video. The YouTube gods have punished me and they do not want me to grow. They do not want me to share my message. So by you liking this video, you can help more people like you see this content and get this pushed to as many people as possible. So I made a video a few years ago called The Law of Equivalent Exchange and How to Understand It. At the time, it was one of my most popular videos. I didn't think that concept would be that interesting for a lot of people, but it seems like a lot of people were interested in it. So I wanted to revisit that concept. Now, if you didn't watch the original video, I recommend watching it, of course, but to kind of summarize what I said, my thought process at the time was that in order for you to gain something in life, I believe there's sort of a law called equivalent exchange. Is it a true law by scientific means? No. You can't empirically prove that giving something equals getting something. However, from observation and from a bit of logic, I like to think that in order for you to get something, you have to give something of more or less equal value. Now, in the grand scheme of things, I think for a lot of people, they believe that this giving and getting process is more or less intentional, and I don't think that's the case. For example, you might believe that if I give you 10 bucks, then the thing you give back will be equal to the 10 bucks I gave you. Like, you believe that the way you value it is going to be consistent with the way they value it, and that's not the case. I think in the grand scheme of life, there are some things that you'll give up not knowingly, and you'll get back something of relatively equal value. And this is going to sound a little bit woo-woo-ish, but I'll say of value according to what the universe determines that value to be, not necessarily what you determine it to be. I do think that at the time, maybe if you, for example, were to lose something, it might seem like you've lost something tremendous. It might seem like you've lost something that is extreme, and perhaps the thing you get back in return might not even really occur to you. Like, you might not even realize that you got this gift in return, or you received something from this trade-off. I think the value of it might not have made itself clear, but I think in time, that value can become clear. Hopefully this all makes sense. So I'll give some practical examples of this. And the reason why I want to revisit this concept is because sometimes when I have an idea or a theory about something, I like to kind of test it out for a long period of time, several years in this case, and see how much it worked. And I think this certainly did work out well. I'm doubling down on my stance about the law of equivalent exchange. So just to give some practicals, I think in the original video, one of the examples I made was if you want to get in better shape, you have to give up things. You have to give up something to get something. If you want to, for example, build muscle, then you have to give up the comfort of not working out. You have to begin working out. And it's no other way, unless you take steroids maybe. But even then, you're still giving up something to give something. When you do steroids, for example, you're giving up maybe some money, but you're also giving up really health, long-term health, in order to build muscle. Because a lot of times, if you're not familiar with this, when you take steroids, it increases the size of your muscles, including things like your heart. It increases the rate in which perhaps your hair may fall out if you're a guy. It does a lot of negative stuff to your body as well as positive stuff. The positives, to me, do not outweigh the negatives. So there is a direct trade-off from you taking steroids for getting muscles. If you're someone who wants to make money, this is a big one. I've seen this a lot. I tend to find that people, when they make money earlier and when they make money faster, there's a huge chance that they'll lose it relatively quickly. What do I mean by this? I've seen people who, for example, are in their 20s and they scam people. And on the surface, to everyone else, it looks like they've gained a lot for losing almost nothing. They scammed somebody, but they didn't get caught. The downside is low because there's no punishment. The upside's high because they're rich. I would disagree, though. I would say in the grand scheme of things, the trade-off is more or less equal. They got money on the front end, and maybe for a brief period of time in their 20s, they get to live a high-quality life. But in their 30s and beyond, they might get into a lot of trouble, and it might devastate their lives, and it might leave a bad reputation. So the 20s, the thing that people, everyone wants to get rich in their 20s. In their 20s, they might get rich, the thing that everyone wants. The trade-off is that the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, and 70s suck, and they might go broke, or they might have a bad reputation in which they can't make that money back. Compare that to someone who maybe doesn't scam someone, who grinds, and maybe in their 20s and maybe 30s, they don't get rich. Or maybe until the end of their 30s they get rich, or maybe mid-30s, whatever. They've put in 15, 20 years of time and did something honestly to get the reward of being rich in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, maybe even hundreds because of modern medicine. And maybe they have so much money that they can pass on to their kids, so their kids can benefit from that wealth. That's just an example. I've seen this a lot actually with people who are born rich. And on the surface, people who are born rich seem very lucky. They seem very fortunate. I've heard people say, I wish I could be born to rich parents. I'm sure you may have heard this. I'm sure you may have said this yourself. Is that a blessing or a curse? I would say it balances out. It's a bit of both. Law of equivalent exchange. When you're born with money, and I found this to be consistent, when you're born with money, you don't value money. So it really means nothing. Someone who's born poor values a little bit of money a lot more than someone who was born rich looking at millions of dollars. Hopefully that makes sense. Like, you could be someone who's born to a super impoverished family, and maybe getting a meal means a lot to you. You can be someone who is born to a super rich family, who has a Lamborghini, has a personal chef. That could mean nothing to them because they take it for granted. The trade-off is that I think the poor person could have a higher quality life because everything means so much more to them. The rich person might have a lower quality life because nothing means anything to him. I think these are the trade-offs we make in life. I know recently in my life, I've cut off a good portion of my friends. And even me personally, when I did that, I thought to myself, maybe I'm making a mistake. Maybe this isn't really the best decision. Maybe I shouldn't do this. A big part of that, if I'm being honest, I think that was just me clinging on to familiarity. I think we as humans do that a lot. When things are familiar to us, we try not to let it go, even though it might be in our best interest to let it go. A lot of people hold on to anchors their entire lives, things that weigh you down. You know they're weighing you down. And instead of just letting go of the anchors, that way you can float and move along the correct path towards the things you really want out of life, you hold on to the anchor desperately and you never get the things you want. The anchor holds you back. Friends of mine were repeating bad habits, I would say, not having positive mindsets, not being supportive, but also just in general focusing on what I would consider incorrect things in life, things that just don't let you grow, things that don't let you improve, things that really just hold you back and serve no real benefit besides making you angry. Stupid stuff is what I'll call it. The things they were holding on to were anchors, and because there were so many of them feeding into this collective mindset, and because I was hanging around them, their anchors became my anchors. They became my anchors. And I figured, you know what? In order for me to improve, in order for me to grow, in order for me to flourish, I have to let them go. Law of equivalent exchange. You let go of something to gain something else. Now, in return for me letting go of these bad friends, I've opened myself up to new good friends, and I've opened myself up to new personal opportunities that I wouldn't have been able to have because the old friends would have influenced me in a negative way that would prevent me from getting these good opportunities. I've opened myself up to a good relationship with my wife because these old relationships might have influenced negatively my current relationship. Does that make sense? So again, this is what I mean when I say law of equivalent exchange. I don't mean it from the whole magical perspective. I think people put magic into it. There's no magic behind it. I think really what it comes down to is decision making. It's a lot more concrete and a lot more tangible than I think people think. You have this one thing, you want something else. You need to reach out for the next thing that you want. You can't reach out with an open hand to that thing when your hand is full. You got to let go of what's in your current hand to pick up the new thing that might be more valuable. I think that's really what it comes down to. So let me know what you guys think about this. Let me know if this makes sense. Let me know if you agree or disagree, or if you've experienced something yourself similar to this. If you've experienced the law of equivalent exchange, let me know. By the way, please like the video. The YouTube gods have punished me and they do not want me to grow. They do not want me to share my message. So by you liking this video, you can help more people like you see this content and get this pushed to as many people as possible. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe as well. I hope to see you in the next one. Peace out. Bye.